What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review for November 8th, 2021. We had a huge week. We had the return of ISC, a roadmap update, and a monthly report all crammed into 1 week. All this and more on today's Week in Review. And as always, if this is your first week in review, this is where I take all of the official Star Citizen news each week, pile it into one video, and throw my opinions in there as well. Also, if you didn't know, I do live stream on twitch.tv/SaltEMike every day but Monday, so I can get this video out to you guys. I do have a second channel, so if you guys want to check that out, it's called SaltEMike 2. A lot of reaction videos to other content creators in the Star Citizen space, as well as things like ISC, and I think that was an interesting watch this week because I was pretty upset with it, and we'll talk about that a bit later. But we're gonna start out with patch notes updates. We had 4 patches this week, kind of. We'll start out with PTUR. It was apparently polishing up some teleporting AI. I still see it in the game, so I don't think it did that great of a job at it. And for bug fixes, the big one was just really revive missions weren't paying, and now they should be. PTUS, the only real thing here was an attempt to fix really crashy builds, but I really didn't play most of the week because of the crashy build, with R and S as well a little bit. T was the same thing. It was just kind of polishing and getting the patches more stable, which it really did. And then PTU was actually rolled back because it brought a lot of instability back into the PTU, unfortunately. So not a lot of additions or updates there, but really getting things kind of bug fixed seems to be the plan here, and I'm actually really okay with that. I want them to take their time and get this right, because I think this patch is monumental and very important to Star Citizen's image almost, so I'm really excited for that. Now, moving on to roadmap updates, we got to start out with the big one, salvage. This was planned for 3.16 until this post came out. They're now planning for 3.18. Salvage has been kicked down the road for literally years. And the reasoning is this will go out to Squadron 42 first, and on top of that, it will be more complete of a system, coming in with a full Tier 0 version of hull scraping and the functioning Drake Vulture. With that said, I think some people are going to roll their eyes as salvage has been delayed again. I feel any time they take more time to polish a system, though, it's better. I mean, I don't feel salvage... I just don't even feel salvage should exist until we're salvaging components out of ships anyway. So for me, I can wait. I don't really care for the hull scraping idea. I guess kind of coming with repairing is cool, but just in general, hull scraping doesn't excite me at all. The actual act of salvaging does. I also think the lack of reclaimer functionality. And I think this is where people, I can see if they get upset, because it kind of feels like a slap in the face. People spent hundreds of dollars on a ship that has 0 functionality in the game and has had 0 functionality in the game for years, other than cargo hauling, I guess. And to come with this newer but also smaller ship, having the first functionality of salvaging, I could see why people would be upset, but I also kind of understand it. Prospector came before the Mole comes before the Orion, so this all makes sense, but I can understand people's frustrations as well. It just looks malicious, like, hey, buy this new ship, it'll come out with this new feature, and it just gives people all the ammo in the world out there to just make Star Citizen look bad because they keep doing things like this, and you gotta wonder sometimes, you know. And I don't really believe this is malicious, but they make you wonder. That's the problem. Now, added to release view, derelict spaceships. Montreal is coming through again and delivering these in 3.16 with a variety of gameplay types, puzzle traversal, hostile AI. I'm kind of excited for these. I think this might be pretty cool. So just kind of maybe in addition to what I'm enjoying with the bunkers, we're going to see more just variety with that kind of gameplay. Mining gadgets. These are coming in 3.16. And again, we'll talk about these when we talk about ISC. I'm not cool with these. Ship-to-ship refueling, very excited for this. Obviously, looking forward to hearing more about it on ISC or SCL because I have a few questions. The main one is like, will quantum fuel be involved or just hydrogen, that kind of thing. This is also coming in 3.16. The Dying Star map, also in 3.16. I just don't think we'll see the impacts of the Arena Commander maps until we, I guess, beef up Arena Commander a little bit more and give it a... I don't know. It's just Arena Commander isn't exciting. And I like PvPing, but there's something wrong with Arena Commander that it doesn't bring a lot of people into it. So hopefully the maps bring more functionality, but they're just visual right now and not functional. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get at here. Gravlev physics rework. So I didn't know we needed this, but man, bikes can be fun to ride. So I'm just looking forward to feeling this in 3.16. They can talk about it and show it to us, but until we're actually using the Gravlev bikes and feeling that physics rework, we won't really know the impact for it. So looking forward to that. DNA heads, better heads for NPCs and players in 3.16. Selling items in shops. Now this was sneaky. This was planned for 3.16, but they didn't mention it falling off to 3.17 here. They said it was added to 3.17. Regardless, this is a step we absolutely need. And the more time it needs to get right, the better it will be, we hope. So again, when it comes down to we need more polish for this, it needs more polish, I am typically going, okay, cool, no problem. As long as it's a priority and you're going to polish it, I'm okay with it. We see what we're getting with looting and items and item containers and interactions and just general inventory. It's pretty good. It needs a lot of polish and it needs a lot more, and I just want it to work and feel good. I love the idea of it, but the more time, the better when it comes to this stuff. But I'm glad that these things are being prioritized. That's the difference of me being upset about the things that I think are important not being prioritized, and the things that I think are important are being prioritized and being prioritized to the point where it needs more time. We want to make it better. That's good for me. NPC taxi missions. This is for 3.17, but do not sleep on these. These missions, if they mean comfort how I think they might mean it, actually gives value to luxury ships. So the 890 Jump, the 600i, and the like will be ships that have a purpose and meaning in the game, which is actually awesome. So a lot of the times I look at those ships and go, who would buy these things? Like, you kind of look at the 890 Jump Club and you're just like, okay, it's a lot of people who spent a lot of money on the video game, just kind of celebrating that fact almost with these ships. But having them have functionality in the game is what those ships really need. So I'm excited to see that. Then the Drake Vulture obviously being added to 3.18 because of the salvage change. Then removed from the roadmap, Origin engine swapping, dynamic door alignment, player slide, prone, physicalized weapon handling, and ship shield emitters. The ship shield emitters is the only thing that I really have any points to point out on. I'm kind of sad to see this one go. What it means is that you can destroy ship's shield emitters, so they no longer have shields. So it's the start of physicalized components. So seeing that fall off, very disappointing for those salvagers out there, actually, because that would be the first step to salvaging. Then moving on to the monthly report, we had AI tech, and for me the most important thing in the AI sections are the nav mesh stuff. So they here talk about the progress on AI using the planets and moons, and when this is complete, the AI will still be wonky, and until we have better performing service. But the ability for NPCs to navigate on the planets everywhere we can go is super important. So right now they're just locked inside buildings and ships and stations. Hopefully this is done soon. Ship AI should be better at targeting and accuracy, and they should use missiles more naturally. They also touched on the subsumption editor, but this mostly seems like back-end stuff that we probably won't see. Then moving on to animation. The animations for the mining gadget I will talk about later were in progress. Facial animations to go with body animations were a priority, and emotes and lines for different characters in the PU were done. So my guess is like shopkeepers and maybe mission givers, who knows. Ship art, Ares polished for 3.15.1, and Drake Vulture is in the final art phase. 2 unannounced ships that I would assume we're going to see at IAE, given one looks flight ready, so I would think that that's when we would be seeing it. The UK team has 3 ships that they're working on. The Bandu Merchantman is in white box, possibly finishing up that white box. The hulls are in progress. The A is in white box review, and the C is approaching gray box review. And then gameplay features, the USPU team started on the selling kiosk that we saw got delayed. They also finalized the cargo rework design and began to work on it. And in case you've been living under a rock, most of the time when the server crashes, the cargo that you have in your ship is recoverable, most of the time. Vehicle features. Those Gravlev improvements are coming that we saw in the roadmap update, and they are still working on jump points with no sign in sight of when we might actually jump through one. And then they're also trying to improve the incredibly complex transit system. This is actually funny. So it'll work on a server meshed environment. If you guys know Christian from my live stream, he's the dude who made it work for object container streaming, and we all know how much he enjoyed that because he doesn't work at CIG anymore. So our thoughts and prayers are out there for the poor soul or souls who have to deal with this problem. Locations. For Area 18's hospital, it is now complete, and we'll see it in 3.16. Lorville's hospital is still under progress. Turbulent. They said entity graph here, and we all know how important that thing is now, so keep on trucking Turbulent. I also just want to point out, I love that the brand new office is the one, and who's killing it, seems to be in charge of probably the most important thing to impact the players since Procedural Planets. It's actually refreshing and really cool to see the new studio having this responsibility and doing work. So great to see. That also includes the locations, right? So those are the same kind of studio that is working on the locations, and they've been doing a great job with the hospitals. I think they all look amazing, and for the most part, they all work really well. UI didn't really do anything that we haven't been discussing for some time. They mainly focused on the UI for refueling and the ASOP terminal rework, so we've talked about that and seen that already. Vehicle tech is the last one, and they worked on a lot of control panel interactions. They also focused on radar and scanning, which we'll go through that Squadron 42 pass first before coming to the PU with more polish, we hope. I obviously didn't touch on a few things like VFX and graphics, and that stuff is a little bit too high level for me to give any even like understanding of what's going on and kind of bring it into simple form. So I always ask you guys to leave a comment down below and let me know what's going on there, and everyone else who's watching as well. Then moving on to video updates, we had an ISC finally. It feels like forever, and they start out with something that just drove me mad. The mining gadget featurette. And they start out with why they're making these in the first place.
When I was with a friend and we hit the Aaron belt to look for some Quantanium, we stumbled over the problem that with a proper setup of the prospector, it was not even possible to crack like the biggest stones.
In the previous updates, we kept adding more and more tools for the players to mine, and we also ramped up the difficulty of the mineable rocks. This presented us with a bit of a problem where, since we went more and more towards a multiplayer mole experience, 2-3 prospectors working together, the problem became that single players kind of were unable to reach that content, not being able to mine very hard rocks. So we figured out that there is a niche that we need to start catering towards.
I'm going to do my best to keep my composure here. I asked this question on Twitter. I'm going to ask you guys here as well. How many rocks have you guys come across, the people who are out there mining, that you absolutely could not mine? I have never come across one that I could not mine. I have mined every single rock, or I could have mined every single rock successfully. I'm sure I made mistakes and blew some up, and that happens to all of us. But from a power standpoint, I've been able to break every single rock. And they showed the Helix as the optimal laser, but because of that, I feel like they don't have a full understanding of what the actual optimal laser is, which is the Lancet, and I just don't think they have a full understanding of the meta with the systems that they've created so far. And I just don't think they understand how we use them. So they're adding more to a system to make it even easier without knowing how easy it already is. And when I feel frustrated, it's because I feel like more time could have been spent on creating variety with the rocks that we mine, creating a real use case for 3 or more lasers, and that huge hold for the Argo Mole. Like, it just could have been better. So, okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I will make a separate video this week, I promise, explaining why I think this is so off base. So what are the types of gadgets? How many? And what do they do?
In total, we have right now 6 devices. So we have one, like the Bormex, that is for resistance reduction. We have the Sabia, which is for instability. Wave shift, it's a mix of resistance reduction and increasing the optimal charge window. We have the Okunis one, which is also for instability reduction and having the optimal charge increased. Then the Stalwart, its increased charge rate and also some moderate resistance reduction. And Optimax is for the optimal window increase and optimal charge rate increase.
So again, they're not really bringing variety. These are combined with consumables, and they're basically doing exactly what the consumables and lasers already do, lowering instability, lowering resistance, making the green zone bigger. We already have this stuff. So the only difference is that you get out of your ship to use them. It's like for the prospector, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. The big argument here is that if you have to get out of your ship, there's more risk because they could blow your ship up if they find you. I get a news flash for you guys out there in Star Citizen Devland. The prospector kind of sucks. So if you get found, you're pretty much dead regardless of if you're in the ship or out of it. You're not defending yourself. So I found that one to be kind of funny. But next, how do we use them and how do they work?
Once you placed it, then you have to find the resonance of the stone that you just attached the device to. It's our minigame, but it's a meaningful minigame.
It's kind of a small puzzle, aligning some slider bars with a wave. The idea is that if you get over a certain percentage, you can activate it.
There's a confirmation, so it starts blinking. That means that it's now functional. You get back to your prospector and you do your mining process.
It's gonna put this effect on the rock until you destroy the gadget, you deactivate it, or the rock breaks apart.
I'm gonna be positive now, okay? I promise. I got some positivity in me here. I really like the waveform thing. I think it's similar to Elite. I think I feel Elite's, what is it called? Deep core mining is the gold standard for space sim mining right now. I think at the moment, I think it's the best. It's quite awesome, and I think them being inspired by this system and wanting to do something like this is something I can get behind. I think as I've talked to members of my community and other people, the idea behind taking these gadgets and applying similar features to what the mining lasers do could be something that is like a placeholder for future stuff. Like, hey, we want to show that this works. We'll come back to it in the future. The problem with that is that they mention, Jared talks about this being the gold standard for all professions going forward. That is a problem. Because through watching this ISC, these guys really feel like they created solo mining with these gadgets. You know, you got your hand mining, you got your rock mining, and you got your multi-crew mining with the mole. And the only place where I think they really severely missed the mark, I think everything is actually quite fun, but where they missed the mark is the mole mining. And there is not a situation where any rock requires more than 2 lasers. Any rock can be broken, even if you're terrible at the game, with 2 lasers. A third is just straight overkill, and they believe that they have achieved, because they think the rocks are harder to break than they are, a multi-crew experience, and I don't feel they have yet. So if we feel this is the gold standard, I fear for the future of Star Citizen's professions, because this is not the gold standard of anything yet, and I'll do my best to provide feedback as to why. The mole doesn't make sense, and all these things in as much detail as I possibly can in that video, and I hope that video makes it back to them, and I hope they take it the right way. I'm not here to tell them that they're bad at their jobs. I'm sure they know more about the future of Star Citizen than I do. I just want to tell them what the current implementation feels like, why I don't find it to be as enjoyable as it could be, and I still might throw some ideas in there. I hate doing this. I don't think this is the right thing to do when you're giving feedback, is to kind of tell them how the mining lasers should be or something like that. But that might be what I do, because I think I have a pretty neat idea, and I was thinking about it in the shower, oddly, but I'll mention that in the video. Lastly, on this subject, they discuss where they want to take mining in the future, and I'm kind of excited for this.
As to where we want to take the miner player experience in the future, we are looking right now at ship refining and getting the Starfarer to be able to refine whatever the prospector and mole are harvesting right there on the spot, together with their mining buddies. And that's what we think will close that lovely gameplay loop of resource acquisition from mining.
Now, I feel like we've heard about this on an ISC before, maybe a monthly report, but this is awesome. Refining. Ship to ship, moving to... Oh, man. I really think that this would take that multi-crew mining experience and step it up a notch a little bit. Now, you may not need multiple lasers to break a rock, but to have refining on the spot would be pretty sick, right? So that would be pretty next level for mining for me, and that would be a start of talking about this gold standard. And maybe that's what Jared means by this, is that you have multi-crew, you have solo, you have hand mining, you have mid-range, and then eventually we'll get to the Orion. Maybe that's what Jared meant by that, but in general, we don't have multi-crew yet, and I'll do my best to explain why. Then we had a sprint report. In-game brand logos is the final pass on mercenary logos, and if you look down below, there's some other companies as well. The Drake Vulture, we heard about just how important this ship is going to be for salvage, but right now they're still just kind of getting the visuals down. Updating textures on NPCs and our faces. Okay, awesome. New armor set. Looks absolutely amazing. And the biggest thing, and the most important thing, it's lootable. Everyone's going to be wearing this thing. Everyone's going to be killing Hairston security to get it. And it is not currently an armor that they're going to sell. They put that thing in for us to loot. This is something I've been crying about, literally crying, and you guys have all been talking smack in the chat. But I'm telling you, I feel like I'm starting to be heard with some of this stuff. Look at that armor, man. That's awesome. It's lootable. We're all loving it. We all want to wear it, and they didn't sell it. And I love to see that. Not everything needs to be for sale, I think was the title of an Answer the Call. And I just feel like the game is just going in the right direction. It feels awesome. Graffiti murals on stations. This is the first pass to find out what might work and what won't. Don't sleep on these either, guys. This goes back all the way to the beginnings of why I purchased Star Citizen. One of the things they mentioned was when economies start to fail in certain locations, you might start to see garbage on the ground and graffiti on the walls. And they're going through the passes of graffiti for each pirate group. So what pirate group might be taking over that system is the one that you might start seeing the graffiti for, right? So I think this is a very interesting little sneakily shared update here, which is pretty cool. Outlaw Station exteriors for Pyro. I think these are looking insane. Always looking for variety from what we have now, and I think these look just incredible. But they also mentioned that we might not see all of them in Pyro. These are for Pyro necessarily, but number 1 is going to be used in a different system, so we'll have to see. Then SCL was on the UI. Now this episode was really dry, I thought, because it's about UI. I mean, that's not really surprising, but a question was asked about the progress on the updated star map.
What we want to do with it, and what we've designed in the background, which we're not showing anybody yet, is this really big system that kind of combines the radar, the star map, potentially some of the AR markers, and also the interior map. We think really that should be one thing, essentially. So like Chris Roberts has always had this idea that he wants to be able to start from the radar and zoom out from that, and you can see the star map, and you can zoom out and see the galactic view, essentially. So we've been writing it around that idea. Anyone who's seen the Arc star map will have a good idea of, I suppose, the general idea of where we want to take it, because we do all like that. It's I don't know, it's easy to interact with, it's quite clear. Visually, it would be, I definitely want us to try and push it a bit further than that, so try and get a bit more of that sci-fi movie feel to it. In terms of functionality, it's kind of your window on the world. I think what we need to do as well is have a bit more of a sort of Google Maps, Apple Maps style navigation thing going on. For example, if you want to find a planet on the other side of the solar system, being able to search for it, maybe just quite easily navigate to it from this central interface. I think all that sort of stuff is going to make it feel nice. And so we're looking to take inspiration from the best maps out there overall.
Okay, so they're actively working on this, but given a lot of this stuff requires other teams, it means it's hard to get done. It means when it does get done, it's going to be buggy, and it will be a while before we see it. So we'll keep looking out for updates on that, but we all know we hate the current one, so hopefully it's sooner than later. The next bit was when they talked about the Moby-Glass rework, and oof.
So, at the moment, I mean, we've been focusing mainly on other things, so star map for the design and so on, and the back end of the star map has been taking a lot of the focus, aside from just little bits and pieces of features here and there. We're starting to ramp up a little bit on the Moby-Glass now, so we're looking into some visual prototyping work. What Chris Roberts wants to see, he wants to know, taking the new tech that we've got, with all this 3D stuff and so on, what can we do to make the Moby-Glass feel cool but still be usable? So the first stage of that is we're going to do some in-game prototyping and work out, I don't know, what can we do there? How cool can we make it look?
Yeah, so this obviously wasn't very promising. It looks like it's mostly visual for right now, and not a lot of action. It sounds like a little bit more discussion than anything. And then quick hits, because it's a long episode and there wasn't too much that I wanted to clip out here. Manufacturer UIs that they showed us a long time ago are still in progress. They want to make sure that they have everything really nice and neat on the Gladius, and then they'll start moving over to everyone else. MFD saving screen, so if you're like, hey, I want this MFD here with this, they're just waiting on this updated MFD tech, because it didn't make sense to have to redo the same work over and over again. We've heard that before. New targeting colors other than red, blue, and white are in discussion, but no real update on that. And they want to update the landing UI, but it's still planned. It's not anything that's actually being worked on. And then for other updates, we had a sneak peek. It looks like just like an AI behavior warming up by a fire. I don't really know what that means. And then easy anti-cheat in 3.15.1. Okay, they're adding anti-cheat to Star Citizen. I've come across maybe one or two cheaters in the entire time I've been playing, because the game's not really that popular, but getting it in there now, I guess, makes some sense. There is some drama around it. The only real thing to note here is that localization mods will be broken, so like language mods and stuff, which is unfortunate, obviously, but the team's giving you a heads up now, and they want to approve these somehow in the future, so we'll have to see how long that takes. And then lastly, a lore post Far From Home. The title is Regen Contemplation. So this is just touching on the regeneration system that we're getting in 3.15. And that will do it. This is a long episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, make sure you leave a like for the algorithm there for me. Hit subscribe if you're new here and you want some more weeks in review. And leave a comment down below and let me know what you thought about my opinions, that some were very strong, but I tried to remain as neutral and as honest as I possibly could. And as always, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next week.